So yes, it's time that we start to record the conversations that we're having. But I want to really see what everybody else is been doing, and then I can fill in on conversations about what really happened with Dave and how he called that. So, hey, Brian, you showed up first. You got anything to contribute today?
No, I'm here to take it all in. I actually participated a couple of weeks ago in two right of your shows, and I listened to them afterwards. And you learn so much about yourself. I got so much more out of it listening to the show that I wasn't talking during the show. Like Irene, while she's talking, you're getting bits and pieces, but when I listen to the show, it's profound. So it just seems so. Yeah, I'm going to try and listen more, is all I'm saying. I'm here to listen.
It's really important that you say that, and I want to underscore that because that's exactly what happens. When you get into the flow of the information that starts to just come through you, you're really not paying attention to it while it's coming out. And like you say, that's what struck me after the first few times I did this myself, was how profound that stuff was. Yes, those were messages that were meant for you too. And the only way you can get at them is to go back and listen to the material to see what it was that you just recorded. Yeah. Well, thanks, buddy. Well, who's got a purpose? Michaela, she looks like she was on a mission when she came in.
Hello, everybody. Actually, I also felt like listening more today,
Okay.
but there's surely something that I can share from my current situation. I was very inspired because in the night between 12th and 13th of November in my country, that was the time when the geomagnetic activity was very high. And I woke up and I felt such a profound, powerful energy. I really felt the earth. It was I cannot describe it, but it was something so deep that kind of deepened my relationship with her, because I felt her. And I realized that everything that we are going through and that we will be going through, there is a big value in this consciousness of relationship with the earth. Like we can go through everything much better and much the more profound experience when we really feel the earth and the relationship we have with her. It's like I've been in my spiritual practice for many years, and it was kind of always connected to the earth. But now it is so palpable; you can really feel it. Like when the geomagnetic activity is getting high, Katarina recommended me one of those exciting apps, Space Weather, I think it is. And then you can see it there. You get the notification when the levels go high, but I feel it anyway. It's only a confirmation for me that it's really happening. It's really a wonderful tool to work with. Especially, of course, at first I watched Ben's channel, Suspicious Observers. He announces when there is some major solar activity, and then there is some specific time until it reaches Earth. So we can get kind of prepared, and then it is really something powerful to feel it and to integrate it into your cultivation, into your practice. Whatever it is, I do not feel like belonging to any system right now. I just have those tools that I collected through all the years, and I just pick up whatever I feel like it's appropriate. But yeah, it makes so much sense, and I'm really grateful that it is so palpable and we can work with it on much deeper and more powerful levels.
Well, you, you can sense that because of who you are, and that's what you feel. But I've been outside with you, and so when you go to energetic places, I've seen you. The phrase light up came into my mind first, but it wasn't that. It was like you integrated when we went to the Door to Telos there, and you saw etchings in places that no one else had ever lifted off the rocks, and yet there they were. Took pictures of them to prove it that it was. That's every time I hear another instance that provides some evidence of these changes that are going on, it just excites me more. That's why what Dave loaded up for us last week was just amazing. But before we get into that, I wanted to see what Paula or Irene might have to offer. Nothing. Okay, so should we just open the can of worms with what happened with Dave?
I feel like
Because
Irene has something to say. Am I correct about that? I just feel it from her.
No, it's really nice to be here. I actually really felt like the whole day, like, you know what? I've been here so many times. I feel like, leave space for everybody else. And then somehow, my whole body turns on the computer. Here I am. And it's actually really good to just be blank, be completely with a blank slate. But obviously, information comes through right before and the whole, yeah. But I'm very appreciative of you also being here and, allowing me to share and receiving the feedback, because it really is so dear to my heart. And things are going on, but once we're together, I mean, this is where you start to see how quickly it starts to integrate and becomes normal. And that's really, I feel, once it becomes more normal, it becomes more like what Michaela said, is like it feels more palpable, because it's not only in there like a spiritual feeling or whatever, right? But it becomes more communicative on many levels. You can think about it, you feel it, you can share it on a human level. And that's I feel these are the steps where we become really, like, we start to reintegrate it into our well, maybe not society, but in communities. And from that, like, slowly but surely, over time, a new society will start to emerge. But it really comes from our individual little steps. It's really profound, and there's an orchestration behind it. We don't even need to know about it, but once you start feeling that, you feel at home, then it becomes so much more comfortable, and you will start to trust whatever shows up. Like, I can share about my experiences this week with whatever light, whatever I just call it light or energy or like consciousness. I shared before with the lenticular clouds, but when I looked closer, I also saw from the clouds, which you can say, like, they're just clouds, but when you really look, it's even dark. When you really look between the cloud and the sky, you just like, and be present, and just, to me, I just like, wow, I'm just in awe about the weather. I'm in awe about it's all here it's part of the earth. We're part of it. It's like, it's here to nurture us. Once you start to see it's all consciousness, then it starts to open, it starts to present itself more. And then I saw these big balls of like purplish light coming down from the sky, and I feel so joyful. I don't care what it is, I just, I'm not intervening, but I just love it because I can feel my body can absorb it. I know it's here to bring, a new energy that may be for the trees, or whatever plasma comes through. I don't need to. I'm not gonna do a test in school to say, have you learned have you learned? Do you know what it is? Have you gone to university so you are allowed to know what it is? You're not an expert. I don't care. I'm not gonna swear anywhere, I promise. But I don't care. I just love I just love that I've been witness to it, and I feel it's communicating because I feel it's nurturing in my body, and I just love that. And so 2 days ago, a friend of mine that I hadn't seen for a really long time, like 6 years or so, and he's from a culture. It's I know I can feel it's originally very sensitive, and their culture has been really suppressed for a long, long time, and so you know it's really a pity, but once I got to know them, I was able to perceive it, because when I would talk with them, and they speak a different language, and English is not always as easy to share, even, but it was so easy to perceive what they were saying, because they s- they really still speak with a feeling, and then you just understand it completely what they're saying, even if you don't even know the words. And so it's almost telepathic, but it's kind of even different. But you bring like a whole message through, and then you can perceive it with your body, not only with your mind. It's really really cool. And so we were walking in my old town, and he was making pictures. So having known, like, they're sensitive people from origin. It's in their DNA. And so he was making pictures of the old town, and he says, "What is that?" He says, "There's no." He says, "I look at the clouds here, and I don't see stars, but they are on my phone." He says, "I'm gonna make another picture and another picture." And it was a bit raining, so you first explained like, "Oh, maybe it's raindrops." I'm like, already knew what was. I already knew, but like, I was just playing, kind of playing along, you know. And then, yeah, well, maybe it's just raindrops. He said, "Well, that's weird. No, it cannot be raindrops." And then he shared that he also some before he made a picture of a painting of an artist, and he says there was somebody in the picture that was really not there. I said, "Well, I don't know. What do you think?" So it's really nice to have like open conversations, and you see things, and you don't have to explain, you don't have to prove anything. It's kind of like, wow, it was just magical, and I could feel the energy. And later on, because it's kind of like, once I see the image, once I've seen it, and I can feel it. So it was really nice when you sometimes feel, wow, I feel so good today. Well, maybe right now you don't even see certain lights, but they're definitely there. You know, there's definitely consciousness there. And it was really like a really configuration, almost like a star system, but it wasn't stars. It was moving, because when he was making another, trying to make another picture, so we were looking through the phone, you saw the lights moving, and changing shape, and changing colors. Anyway, it was really a fun experience. And later on, because once you're connected, like I shared before, once you're connected to it, you can just, when you're at ease, or in your meditation, you start to you can reconnect with it, and then collecting the information. And it was really profound, actually, that there was a connection between us together with whatever energy we're carrying, and that's coming from them, and connecting. And it was so delightful, and I don't need to unfold it now, it will come later, but there is something that we absorbed, and both, each in our own way, and we somehow, because we didn't deny it, and we were just wondering about it, you can just feel this really love come over, and just like this neutrality, and like a new kind of, I don't want to say, yeah, maybe a new kind of love that we may have not experienced on the planet. Also, like how you relate to one another. It's not, it's going to completely change, and it's going to be so free, and so respectful and kind. So anyway, that's been what's up these last couple of days. And also, yeah, I could feel the energies also, but I also felt so tired, so much. But so there's also a lot of cleansing going on, and I'm okay with it. Maybe you do it for our whole community, and then I'm okay with it. And I learned mostly these last days, because still you can be triggered by people, whatever people are saying, or where they come from. But I really learned so much, like, wow, to really not, whatever I've been triggered by to really dissolve it from within and to have no any arguments with anybody outside of me. I don't need to have a response mechanism because that's gonna keep us entangled. But I could really feel like, wow, resolve deep things within me and what it is that I truly feel I want to express. And then miracles start to happen. Like, and it gives an opportunity for the other person who was the trigger. Maybe they were guided to trigger. I don't know. But it starts to have a domino effect in a positive way. So anyway, it's been a journey, even though I stayed most of the time just at home. It's quite funny that there's a world opening up. So I'll leave it up to you, Mel. Thank you.
Okay, Paula.
I am really enjoying listening. I really am. I'm absorbing the energy and appreciating it. So grateful for this meeting every week. Also, I feel like I've been experiencing a lot of energies. I'm away from home right now. So when you travel, everything's a little bit funky. I don't know if you've been feeling like that, Lowell, since you're at a Sedona. Obviously, you're in a very high energy place. But I've been grateful to have the opportunity to share, like what Irene was saying, to be at peace and to convey what I perceive as maybe a higher perspective and being able to share that with the place that I work. Because I am in a position where I train people and I do have the ability to train some of that to be beneficial in their work and personal lives. So I've been grateful to be able to do that for the last week. And it's, for the uninitiated, they have been very appreciative and receptive of some of this, what we say, peace at all costs, right? Being empathetic and compassionate and integral and honest, and carrying that in your personal life and then in the professional life as well. So I'm grateful for this week to be able to do that and then to recharge with all of you today. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Wow. That's dimension straddling, isn't it? Well, I enjoy being the deliverer of, people's real experiences. And so I want to kind of capitalize on what took place over the last week with our buddy Dave. Last year, I had been told there would be greater contact. And of course, I always looked at that in terms of my connection with Lemurians and, inner Earth. Dave brings a whole, new level of perspective with things because communication he's been receiving is some of it's been meant for me. It made me remember that undoubtedly, if we are to believe, which I certainly do, that there is, off-planet communication and interaction that happens at Mount Shasta. And we see that in the form of what we have been told are lenticular clouds. That type of communication in that dimension is ongoing. We are being prepared to be introduced to that level of interaction. And Dave is one of the first ones who can talk about off-planet communications. And, this didn't happen overnight. He's much more articulate really in the last several months than he had been for a long time. Because if you remember, this started happening back in early of 2017. And Dave had some assimilating to do before he knew a way to understand it for himself, what he had been given, and then if this is really meant to others, how do I express that? Well, as you can, when you hear him now, you see he is good to go. But he is now, it was like the first downloads he received prepared him for everything else that they were going to send his way. And not just that, give him the understanding of how the process is taking place, so that that process is not unique to Dave. It's the way that we all get information. If you understand light codes and continuous light, CLPT, CLPF, that type of transmission, when you begin to understand that phenomenon and start to take it in, I've received downloads. But I always thought that I was getting them overnight because that's what I told I was going to get. Now I have looked up at the sky and seen things, flashing back at me, and I didn't really comprehend what they were. It wasn't that I wasn't inviting that kind of communication, but it's like anything else. You need to just put it out there and nurture it. You have to invite that setting in for it to come in. Now that I understand that, I knew when I got here to the area here in Sedona that the conditions would be right for me to catch, phenomenon in the sky. So I bought a pair of infrared goggles, and occasionally I'll go out at night, and I had to learn how to use them first. You can either hold them and look into the sky and hope you're going to find something, but I thought, no, let's put it on a tripod, and then you can just set this thing to record for a while, and then you can report what you record. It gave me a huge appreciation for the night that I was there at Jamie and Corey's property, and Dustin was there filming and somehow captured a wormhole in a point that he was pointing at. He was just pointed at the right direction. I've been focused because really the backyard here just naturally points at the Pleiades that comes up between the trees. So I've been recording those because I had never been able to see them with the naked eye like somebody suggests. Well, I have recordings of them now. But it's the byproducts that you get that you don't expect. So while I'm recording what's in the sky, you can see orbs, throughout the property. And that whole idea of setting the right environment, because anytime I've been to, especially Jamie's property, there had always been an orientation for us, just invite these things in, get the meditative conditions right, and they'll show up. The activity on Jamie's property now, if you follow her Facebook group, is incredible. I mean, it looks like rain and waves of orbs coming in. So I have an appreciation for different levels of that kind of activity. We're not quite here yet, but I learned that the first half hour, I decided to point it at the sky and look at something. At the end, it showed me, well, that means I got to review 30 more minutes every time I do this. So I decided to do them in 15-minute increments. What I saw first is that I really didn't see much activity until I got to the second 15, when in between the recordings, I had, looked up at the sky, I had a laser and I had flashed and I had invited it in. Well, there was what made sense to me. You hadn't really asked to set the conditions right. I will get you Jamie's Facebook group, absolutely, because we go there for the orb activity, and Jamie and Corey are both connected in ways that's phenomenal. She has 20 acres near McLeod that look right at Mount Shasta. But they've had some CE5 events there because, of course, there's activity in the sky at the same time. What Jamie has now set up some cameras on a facility, and they live rather remotely, that captures it overnight. And so that's what she's been posting to the site. And when you see these waves of activity, that's not normal. To see them, float across the screen, every now and then, that's normal there. And that's not normal anywhere else. When you see the amount of activity that's up there, wow, there's some energy pouring through there. And so the point of all this is that it's clear to me that part of all these efforts is preparing us for contact. Yeah, okay, we got ourselves in alignment and we know that there's something greater than this. Nobody said along the way that you should prepare yourself for actual contact with these other beings. Some of them will be humanoid and some of them won't. And so really that's part of the objective. If we really want to see them, we have got to somehow get past the fight or flight, feeling, that reflex, so we don't freak out when we see something we really don't understand to begin with. Now, lots of us have had practice because we've allowed for things we didn't understand before. Now, we're going to really put that to the test when it comes in human, in form, and ends up here. But lots of information on how that's going to take place has been downloading to me. And it's less about, there's not going to be a mass landing so much as we see this craft up there all the time. And we've also seen real-time images of these lights that have, floated down here on the surface. The way that, in my mind, that they'll reach the surface is, that it's probably a scout ship from a bigger mothership that comes down, into our atmosphere. And then those beings, are either telomered down here, or they are those light packages that have come down here. And that's the way that they have come to just do their explorations, because they're checking things out here too. We've certainly come across ambassadors from somewhere else, and Dave's had experience with multiple versions of beings from other places, not just the ones that he's intimately familiar with. There's ambassadors from other realms that are coming here too, because sooner or later, and it's more sooner than later, Earth is in a consciousness where interaction with other beings in other dimensions is just another day. So, we're kind of the advanced team. We've just allowed ourselves to just the capacity to understand that. And when we have, it's opened the doors for greater understanding beyond that. And then you start to get light packages that download the information and it makes sense. Did you want to contribute, Brian?
Oh, I was just thinking that you were talking about like being ready for and fear and how, and I've been thinking about that a bit myself lately. Like, I don't think I come from a place of fear and I can calmly deal with things, but you never know what you're going to be presented with. So I've been trying to think about that just a little bit to get myself ready for it. And then I had an interesting experience the other day. I was dragging out my garbage cans to the road, and it's a long gravel driveway, and they're big totes with wheels on them. So I'm dragging them up the driveway, and I could hear an owl. And I've been having lots and lots and lots of owl experiences, right? So I hear this owl, and I'm dragging up the cans, and then all of a sudden I hear this woman scream, high pitched, loud, right behind my head. It felt like it was above me, and so I just stopped the cans, and I'm like listening, and my heart was pounding, and from that adrenaline rush of it, and I kind of laughed to myself. It's like, yeah, no, you're not ready for it yet, Brian, because just my reaction, just the heart pounding from it, right? And then I could hear it. I think what it was this screech, sounded like a woman screaming, was a certain mating call from a barred owl. And because I went searching it up, like what owl sounds like a woman screaming, and it's a certain mating call, and it's kind of way early. It's a few months away from that season for them, but I think that's what it was, because then I could hear two owls after that. And then I looked up in the sky, and I had a good flash, and then I had it come on lower, and it just sort of stayed there, and then slowly went out, and then it moved off to the east across the sky. So there was something going on with it all, but it's just one of those I guess, lessons that you got to keep working on it, because, you know, when you're presented with whatever we might come in contact with, you know, it's going to get that ticker going. It's going to affect the experience, I would think. So I was just surprised by my reaction.
We're still 3D, you know, physical beings, and we've been triggered to be jolted like that. I'm telling you, it took me a long time of meditation to realize that you know how you are when a door slams unexpectedly behind you, or a book drops, or something, you know, just loud and unexpected happens, and you just by nature jump. You know, there came a point at which I didn't jump anymore. And after like the third occurrence, it occurred to me, why am I not jumping anymore? Because normally in the past, I'd have, you know, jumped off the couch. You just find that space, and whatever happened around you, it don't matter. It's not that you're unaware of it, but that doesn't matter anymore. Um, when you finally achieve that place, now you're in a place where you're really more willing to accept things you didn't understand, because there's no fear anymore. Yeah, I'm not scared of what I don't understand anymore, because really, if I think about it, you know, in a deep way, I'm just a soul in this carbon body. And, you know, as much as this is great and I'm attached to it in many ways, you know, from a third dimensional perspective of family and friends, you know, all those connections, there's a bigger thing at stake here. And now that Earth is in touch with the next phase, and I can see that, and I have a broader understanding and no fear of where we're going, because clearly it's what we've been promised here for a long time, where we all understand we're connected to one another. Duality, yeah, we're done with those lessons third dimensionally. We failed to see them as lessons in the first place, and that just caused lots of other problems while we're here. The way that we need to label things to understand words just continue to get us into trouble. The next phase, you know, I love it when we continue to talk about how things feel, because that's the next level of our communication with not just each other, with everything around us, with nature. When I finally found a spot here the day before yesterday to go back and connect with nature, that's when I got the answers I was looking for. It's, I had missed it when I was in Santa Rosa for so long, because with so much white noise around you, you can't find that really quiet spot. Well, here, you can drive 10 minutes in any direction, and you can probably find a spot to do that. There's where peace is found, and answers will come, and connection can take place, because there's no other distractions around you. And wow, it's wonderful. So there, back to, I know we started off on Dave's, and I really want to kind of review it quickly. When we had talked about how contact was going to increase, and Dave is now knowingly inviting more of it in. Plus, he's been, you know, getting other downloads and telling him of contact that was going to take place, the communication that was going to take place, trips that were coming here. Anyway, a week ago Saturday, so this was after the podcast the week before. On Saturday, he sent me a text message indicating some of the messages that he'd received from his friends in Aldron and the, you know, Taurus, and that there was going to be activity coming from that constellation toward Earth. So I tucked that away, and then we get to the next week. He does his podcast on Thursday. And if you follow what's been going on and you saw the post I made, there he went outside after the podcast. He was walking the dog and happened to look up in the sky and saw that something I looked at right away. It wasn't an airplane, because it wasn't moving like that. But sooner or later, it did move, and it sat there for a while. And then over time, because he zoomed in on it a bit, you could see this thing split into two. There was this part was bluish and this part was like white. Well, Dave spent this podcast explaining the nature, the physics of what had happened, and gave a correlation to what he saw in the sky. Because you can look at it, and the more you look at it, the more it makes sense. I even noticed before he had said that as soon as Dave said hello to it, it was like the light that was kind of pointing off like to the east, if you want to see it that way, all of a sudden was facing him. The light was coming this way. And then over time, as he was watching it, that's when this thing separated. It was crazy. He said it was similar to, there was a space shuttle mission, STS-75, as a matter of fact, where they were playing with some new material and a tether that was like 600 meters long. And they were going to use it for, different types of communication experiments. Well, over time, the tether came loose and, got up in the atmosphere, and it caught a particular aspect of the sun. And when it shined, because of the material, all of these craft showed up, swimming around it because they were attracted to it. At first, when you look at it, the normal mind would go, no, I'm not sure what I'm seeing. But the more you look at it and the more detail they got, this was an archive film from flight logs from a NASA event that's been, I saw it for myself on YouTube yesterday. I'd suggested you go see it. So when you talk about this tether and what it did, these craft that were in there looked just like what Dave had explained and showed us in this. So whether they were the same or not, man, there's just more dots that were being connected. And that STS-75 flight was not recent. It's just, I love to see more evidence finally coming to the surface. And I'm not sure that NASA really knows that that's out there, with the rest of us that are starting to put all of this stuff together. But we are. There's a reason for it. So I'm going to see what else I can't capture in the sky here. I know I'm going to get lucky pretty soon. I can certainly, I'll post some of the orbs I've seen, just because people need to see that kind of magic. But once you see what's on Jamie's, you'll go, oh my God, I've never seen anything like that. The first images I had seen of orbs in any environment was at Jamie's, and I think it was like 2 years ago. She had sent some pictures of her with her nieces on the property, and her nieces were surrounded by these different colored orbs in their field. Oh, that's cool. She goes, oh yeah, it happens on my property all the time. Then of course you go, well, I want to experience that. And when I finally got an opportunity to do that, and I was photographed with that going around, you don't see them in your third dimensional thing, but you feel them. Oh yeah, you can feel them when they're on you. They feel really cool. So you can feel when they're coming through and when they pass by you. So now that she's recorded these things overnight, off her deck on these, infrared cameras that she's, posted around the property, I think she's got, the swarms of it that come through are just magnificent. Pictures that I've seen of colleagues that were in Pluto's cave that took pictures, that's as dense as I've ever seen them, and that was as colorful as I'd ever seen them. Generally you see them kind of come through and they look like this round thing and just big and kind of translucent, but when you see them in full color like that, especially in a cave that has no daylight, wow, just, it's extraordinary. So I need to take a breath and get a drink. Who has an observation?
I'll just mention that Michaela kind of put a puzzle piece together for me earlier when she was talking about the electromagnetic storm that we had a week ago. Last weekend, I had I had like a feeling of motion sickness for no good reason, right? And my headspace was like that. And I kept thinking like, what was going on? Why was that? And then when she mentioned the storm, and it was like, oh yeah, that's what it was. I can be so dumb sometimes, right? So dense. So yeah, thanks for that.
Well, you
Yes,
just don't know
uh,
what you don't know. Go ahead, Michaela.
I just wanted to say that in the past I was looking at Schumann's resonance. Uh, Whenever I felt like tired or energized so much for no reason, I just looked at it, and there was always something happening. So that's how I started to tune into these influences, and it really makes so much sense, because I also, when I was in Shasta with you, Lowell, at the portal, and the shift happened, and then I get back home and change some things in my life. Uh, One of the things that I felt like really doing was taking more time to feel these things, to not be so much um, in this race for performance and work and linear achievements and things like that. I felt like giving myself more space to these unexpected events, to these unexpected states of mind and body, so that I can really feel it, I can really tune into it. And yes, it's happening, you know. In the past, when I was tuning myself into the earth, I did it mostly on those events in the cycle of the year that we were discussing at the time, because those are very powerful energetical shifts when you get yourself into meditation at solstices or equinoxes at the exact astronomical time. It's really worth it. I recommend to everyone. But now there is this another element of CMEs and geomagnetic activity that is unpredictable, kind of, and that gives to the whole process another dimension.
We can only look back at the history that we've collected, and let's face it, maybe 100 years of that stuff. We think that we can look back on phenomenon and explain what has happened along the way. Nonetheless, there are some really good resources to look at. You mentioned Ben on Suspicious Observers. Ben is probably, in my mind, he helps us understand the solar influence, the cosmic influence on Earth. There are a couple other resources because I used to follow the Schumann resonance too. That's how I kind of got a feel for, here's my baseline. Now I understand how to measure my feelings. But when I found out there's actually two sources for the Schumann resonance that, measure it, the Italian one and then the Russian one. Well, the Russian one isn't all that reliable anymore. And sometimes it's up and down. And Dave explained actually why that happened. When that was built long ago, it was funded by some international organization, and when that funding dried up, you kind of get it if it works right now. But no one's maintained any of this equipment, and the antenna really needs attention. And so, regardless, there are some other places now that you're aware of these measurements, these barometers of us to kind of get a feel for what's going on. Ben's is still one, and that just shows you the solar phenomenon. There's one called Dutch Sense, and I think the Earthmaster, they focus on volcanic and earthquake activity. And Dutch Sense, this guy is a bit of a rebel on YouTube, but his prediction theories and his mindset on where earthquakes are going to take place, he's watched this for so long, he sees what is coming. And so he's connecting stuff like from Ben and solar activity to see, he has a way of looking at how is the earth facing the sun when it hits it. So what areas are likely to, go through this surge, and then where is that going to transcend? because the way that the Earth is facing the sun, is going to have a lot to do with what actually comes, regardless of, think of that electromagnetic energy. Now that's plasma coming from the sun. It's always looking for the poles as the way in. So, it either hits the North Pole or it slips around to the South Pole and hits the core, and then that energy's got to go somewhere. Yeah, earthquake, tsunami, it's going to come manifest its way somewhere. It's all part of Earth's cosmic rise in consciousness. Yeah, she's just getting used to a new form. And we're still here watching it go through in our third dimensional mindset. Fourth dimension isn't going through that. There are changes that are taking place on Earth, but she's about to get a refresh. And we can't conceive what that means yet. All we know is that when New Earth blossoms, the palette has been kind of redone, and we get to start over. That's a discussion for another day. But I'm looking forward to the day because energetically, I feel that it's happening. I think Michaela mentioned the influence, especially around the celestial cycles, where there's a reason that energy is high then. But even the things that we've been watching and we think we've been mapping, what we experienced, the unexpected stuff, was where we have stepped into solar maximum now, and the levels of activity are still off the freaking charts. Do you really not think that something's about to happen and that the Earth, whose poles flip every now and then? Yeah, that's one of the side effects. That's one of the things that's going to happen here when she rises into her next level of vibration. But we all want to understand, well, we see our third dimensional bodies, somehow, will I survive this? What will I look like on the other side? Well, you won't be there in this particular body. You already have inside of you what you need to transform into your crystalline form. That's about to take place. For those of us that understand that and vibrate with it, that's welcome news. To the uninitiated, they go, you're out of your freaking mind. I'm just telling you, you have to believe something. So you can choose to take the information I'm going to give you, and you be discerning with it. If this doesn't resonate with you, bless your heart and send you love and light. But this is how I've come to terms with what I have already seen in the next realm and how we get there. And I'm doing my best to describe something that's pretty freaking undescribable. But we'll continue. So, wow, we're sneaking up on an hour. Anybody have anything else to contribute?
I'd like to add a little something to that. To your point, that either resonates with you or it makes you sound like absolutely crazy to some, right? And, what we deem as, from my perspective, what we deem as logical has really nothing to do with reality. There was a time when it was completely illogical that the Earth, of course, was flat. They always say that. Oh, remember when we thought the Earth was flat and then we knew better? But, from a logical perspective, if you were looking out on the ocean, you would see the horizon drop at the other end, wouldn't you? It would be logical to assume that it's just going to go straight down because that's been your experience. You see the end of a cliff, it goes directly down. And more than that, you think to yourself, well, gosh, if the Earth were round, then we would fall off the sides, right? Because that's as big as our world is in that moment. So I think, if somebody says that's illogical, understand logic is really based on a very pinhole perspective as to what people are looking through. And it's an invitation to say, there is literally evidence out there that isn't necessarily seen with the level of tools that we have right now. But you understand it from something that's deeper within you, and you're trusting that. Whereas before, traditionally, we've had to trust sources outside of ourselves, and what they say, that's normal. But I'll have to say, the experts out there and those that we say are authorities, the normal decisions that we've been making have given us the world that we have today. So it's an invitation to maybe expand your horizons. What's normal is the results of what we have today. And we're inviting people to join us into a much bigger reality with peace and harmony. And that is what is truly logical.
Yeah, Irene was, when she was speaking, she was describing, I was listening to her, she was describing manifestation. She was talking about how when something is brought into your awareness, however you brought it in there, that it's by that method that you bring it into your physicality. And when you can start to share that experience with somebody else, that's how you begin to co-create. So those of us that are seeing all this new perspective of things, there for the uninitiated is what we mean by manifestation. And the way that that happens is when thoughts become things, you bring something into your awareness, you focus on it in the way that it needs to, and then you let the universe do their thing. And sooner or later, it just comes your way. I can tell you it's happened. This little excursion for me to be in Sedona was no accident. This is not a coincidence. You know, last summer when I was planning on what I was going to do, there is still an outpost in Shasta that will be closing on there. But I thought, you know, in the long run, there'd be somewhere, you know, when it wasn't as conducive to be in a snowy environment like Shasta in the winter, where I wouldn't want to be, that heading south and probably in the area around Arizona would probably be a good idea. And so look at what I manifested. Yes, that's how it works. So this was just the latest example. But man, every time you see that picture, a little bit more of the veil is pulled back because you thought this is all there was. Yeah, look at this. It's remarkable, incredible. As I've been walking around town here a little bit, when I go into Sedona, I usually do it during the week because on the weekends you just stay out of there. I've been trying to look at the faces of the people that were here and trying to determine, you know, what was it that drew you here? You know, what did you come looking for? And, you know, the scale of people you see is across the board. And what I failed to think of until really I was in Shasta in July, I had finally seen almost a tour group of Asians that got there looking for something. And I'd never really considered anything but, you know, people, you know, domestically visiting. I knew other people came from other places on the planet, but I'd never seen a group effort like that. I can see where that could blossom if somebody wanted to focus on that. But again, to me, this isn't an enterprise. And I'm not interested in being a tour operator, you know, serving tens of thousands of people a year to, you know, bring them into an area. My responsibility is different. I'm an activator of activators, I think. And so my job is to help you get where you need to be so you can go help the rest of your tribe when it comes to their need to understand what we already do. And, you know, they're all trying to catch up. So I think we'll end there and, you know, see what is manifested for next week. So I'll be eager to see what somebody else experiences. I think that if you're not expecting contact, expect it. If you want it, begin to invite it, just like Dave says. You know, I never really thought of the kind of power that had until I experienced it for myself. So I'm telling you, it worked for me. You guys are no different than me. It can work for you too. Find a clear patch of sky and start to invite them in. And I trust with the vibration everybody in this room's got, you'll get them to respond. They'll be in different forms. They may be orb forms, like I've seen and been delighted to be around. But man, there are lights moving in the sky and getting closer to the surface. It's just a matter of, this benevolent, and I want to underscore the word benevolent help is here and is just waiting for us to vibrate at their level so they can contact us too. So there's something to look forward to, and I'll see you all next week. Okay? Yeah. Namaste.